Hey, what's going on guys? ACCRUED John here. Today we're going to be going over all the PvE god rolls for each of the current Destiny 2 raids, that being Deepstone Crypt, Garden of Salvation, and Last Wish. But before we jump into things, I ask that if you want to keep up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, leaks, tutorials, and more, that you go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Anyways, let's jump into it. So, starting off, we're going to take a look at the Deepstone Crypt weapons. As a side note, I'm not going to go over barrel and magazine perks, because most of the time that is up to personal preference. But anyway, starting off, we're going to take a look at the Trusty Scout Rifle. Now, the Trusty is a 260 RPM rapid fire frame solar scout rifle, and when taking a look at the first slot, you actually got a couple of good PvE options here. First up is Reconstruction. This will passively sort of act like a longer reload of auto-loading holster, except it doubles your magazine. Then there's Surplus, which actively gives you bonuses like increased reload and handling and stability for having all of your abilities charged up. And then finally we have the classic Outlaw, which increases reload speed on precision kills. And honestly, I don't think there's a definite one to say that's one's better than the other. I think ultimately it's going to come down to personal preference here. Do you like that immediate reload on the precision kills, or do you like having to rely on your abilities for your reload, or do you like just having it reload itself over time and having a bigger magazine in return? All personal preference for this first slot out of those three. Now, in the second slot, the reason why I said the first slot is personal preference is because in the second slot, there's not really a whole lot of good perks here. If I had to be honest, for PvE, just stick with Wellspring. Don't even bother with other perks. Moving on, let's take a look at the Sniper Rifle Succession, which is a 72 RPM aggressive frame kinetic sniper. Now, ironically, this sniper, it does have a very high zoom, and the ironic part is this sniper has a lot of Crucible perks on it, and that's sort of problematic because it has a high zoom, making it not really viable for Crucible. Now, in this first slot, personally, you only really got one real usable perk here. I'm gonna say that's Reconstruction, although you could definitely make lead from gold work. It's just with how I use snipers in PvE, that being really using them for boss damage, you're really gonna want Reconstruction. Now, in the second slot, you do have the option of Recombination, which increases damage for every elemental final blow you get. Although you could always go with the classic Vorpal weapon, which increases your damage against bosses. A lot more simple, and you have to worry about getting energy weapon kills. Now, if you want this to be like a good special weapon in PvE to use, I would definitely go with Lead from Gold and Recombination. Although if you want one that's more for boss DPS, then I'd have to recommend Reconstruction and Vorpal weapon. Next up, we got the Hand Cannon Posterity. This is a 180 precision frame arc hand cannon, and you actually got quite a bit of options for rolls here. So in the first slot, you got the options of Rapid Hit, Feeding Frenzy, 4th times Charm if that's your thing, Surplus, and Reconstruction. Like I said, lots of options. And in the second slot, you got the options of Demolitionist, Rampage, and One for All, although it's been scientifically proven that One for All is way better than Rampage, so really your options lie between One for All and Demolitionist. If I had to choose a god roll, I would probably go with either Rapid Hit or Feeding Frenzy, and then One for All. Although any of the perks I listed for the first slot could definitely work. Next up, we got the Sword Bequest. I'm going to be real quick and short here and say I got really not much good to say about the sword. It doesn't have that many perk options, and overall something like Falling Guillotine or even Lament is about 10 times better than this simple adaptive frame arc sword will ever be. But if you're that desperate for a god roll for every weapon, I would just have to straight up recommend Relentless Strikes and Surrounded. None of the other perks are really worth talking about. Moving on, we got Commemoration, the Void adaptive frame machine gun. And as you guys can already see from looking at the perks, this is pretty much a upgraded version of Hammerhead, everyone's favorite adaptive frame machine gun from Black Armory. Now in the first slot here, I'd have to recommend Surplus, Reconstruction, Reconstruction and Feeding Frenzy. And in the second slot, I would have to recommend Rampage and Dragonfly. Although do take note with Surplus here, there is no ability regen perk, so I don't know if I would completely would recommend Surplus here. But the god roll for this weapon is going to be Feeding Frenzy, Rampage, or Reconstruction, Dragonfly. And honestly, all 4 of those perks are interchangeable in terms of the god roll. So at the end of the day, when it comes to between Feeding Frenzy and Reconstruction and Dragonfly and Rampage, it's going to be personal preference what you prefer more. Anyways, moving on to our final Deepstone Crypt weapon, and that is going to be the 65 RPM Precision Frame Heritage Shotgun. It is kinetic, by the way. Now, there is some good perks here, like Reconstruction, Auto-Loading Holster, Dual Loader, and in the second slot, you get Thresh and Recombination. But I think we all know why we want the shotgun and how we're going to use it, that being damage for Taniks. And since everyone wants to damage Taniks with a slug shotgun, the god roll here is going to be Reconstruction and Recombination. Although you could certainly use an auto-loading holster as a substitute for Reconstruction, although you're not going to get the same benefits, that being double the magazine size, but it is still certainly viable. Hell, even at the end of the day, having something like Reconstruction and having some trash perk in the second slot is still viable for Taniks DPS. So don't let that put you down if you can't get the god roll. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. And going on here, we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire here for the Garden of Salvation and Last Wish weapons, because there is quite a bit and this video is getting a little long here. And also these weapons are fairly old, but let's jump into it. So starting off, we have Ancient Gospel. For the first slot, I could recommend either Rapid Hit or Outlaw, and in the second slot, you could go with either Kill Clip, Dragonfly, and Swashbuckler. Personally, my god roll would have to be Outlaw Dragonfly or Outlaw Kill Clip. Next up, we got Zealots Reward, the Fusion Rifle. Fusion Rifles are dog shit, my dude. I'm gonna be honest. But if I had to recommend a roll, it would probably be Feeding Frenzy Rampage. At the end of the day, it's a Fusion Rifle. It's horrible. I don't recommend using it in the first place. Next up, we got the Pulse Rifle, Sacred Providence. In the first slot, you got Rapid Hit and Outlaw. Then in the second slot, you got Kill Clip and Head Seeker. If I had to choose one, again, probably go with Outlaw and Kill Clip or Rapid Hit and Kill Clip. Mainly Rapid Hit and Kill Clip, just mainly because Rapid Hit you can get faster because it's a pulse rifle. Next up, we got Reckless Oracle, the Void Auto Rifle. Man, this one's doo-doo as well. It's a rapid fire auto rifle. In the first slot, I can only recommend Outlaw. In the second slot, though, I could recommend Kill Clip, Swashbuckler, and Demolitionist. Which one you want to use is up to personal preference. Overall, I wouldn't recommend this weapon because it's a rapid fire auto rifle and they're not too good. Next up, we got the Solar Sniper Rifle, the Omniscient Eye. Oh my god, this weapon's got like no PvE rolls. In the first slot, I probably would have to recommend No Distractions. And in these... fuck's sake. Oh my god, you know what, screw this weapon. I don't recommend this, period. The sniper apparently is all about ad clear, and you just don't use snipers for ad clear. That's dumb waste special ammo. On top of it being a sniper, which is zoomed in a bunch. Yeah, I wouldn't use this weapon. I'm not even gonna recommend a god roll for this, because there isn't one. Next up, we got the Precision Frame Prophet of Doom Arc Shotgun. And there's not much for good rolls here, but if I had to recommend one, probably full auto and 1-2 punch. Anyways, moving on to our final Garden of Salvation weapon here, we got the ACCRUED Redemption Combat Bow. Not many options here either. Probably would have to go with Archer's Tempo and Rampage. And that's it for the Garden of Salvation weapons, so we're going to quickly go over the Last Wish weapons now. Starting off with the Chattering Bone, probably would have to recommend Outlaw and Rampage. Good old classic. Then we got the Auto Rifle, Age-Old Bond. Honestly, there's not much to work with here. Probably go with Triple Tap in the first slot, and then either Kill Clip or Dragonfly in the second slot. Again, it's a 360 RPM Auto Rifles. It's not too good. Don't really recommend this weapon in general. Then we got the Nation of Beast Hand Cannon, aka Baby Fatebringer. And that is because its curated roll can run with Outlaw and Dragonfly, as well as it being a arc hand cannon. Although Outlaw and Rampage and Kill Clip are definitely still viable. Next up, we got the Kinetic Sniper Rifle, the Supremacy. There isn't many options here, but if I had to recommend some, I'd probably go with Snapshot and Triple Tap. for that crispy boss DPS. Next up, we got the Apex Predator rocket launcher. Is just straight up ass. Like, I'll be honest here, guys. It's a rocket launcher, so yeah. But if I had to recommend a god roll, I'd probably say tracking module and auto-loading holster. Otherwise, I don't even recommend searching for a god roll for this weapon. Although the tier-rated roll of snapshot and cluster bombs is definitely fine. Next up, we got the bow, Tyranny of Heaven. You could definitely go with Archer's Tempo and Rampage. Although I think I definitely would prefer the curated version, which comes with Sneak Bow and Dragonfly. I mean, come on, Dragonfly on a bow, that's pretty cool. Next up, we got the Transfiguration Scout Rifle. In the first slot, you could either do Triple Tap or Rampage, and in the second slot, you could do Ambitious Assassin and Kill Clip. If you're crazy enough, you could combine Rampage and Kill Clip, although I think that's a little overkill for a Scout Rifle. So because of that, I'd probably recommend Rampage and Ambitious Assassin. And finally, we have our final weapon here, which is the TECHEUN Force Fusion Rifle. My god, is this thing just, it's bad. So, you could probably go with Kill Clip and Rampage if you're crazy, or you go with Kill Clip and Backup Plan, or Threat Detector and Rampage. You got options, but, I mean, come on, it's a fusion rifle. I don't think you're really gonna want to use it to begin with. Anyways, this was H-Trainer John. That's my recommendations for every single raid weapon currently available. Let me know your personal god rolls down below, and I'll see ya in the next one. Peace.